back to McCarthy Performance. Today we'll be line boring the 350 block that I'm going to turn into a 383. This is the one that I did the starter repair on and the water pump bolt repair on. I'm going to be line boring it on my old Tobin flat top. TA14, if you are a Tobin geek, I guess I kind of am. I've have a few of their pieces of equipment and I've always admired their stuff. It's old and it's primitive, but it sure does work if you've got the time. So there won't be a lot of talking. There is over 300 videos on my page, and I put them there for a reason, for people to maybe learn or learn how not to do things, because I'm not going to tell you that my way is the best way. My way works for me. Over the years, I've kind of learned the hard way on some things. These machines are kind of tricky, and you know, it's not like a duck taken to water. If you've just recently purchased one of these, it can be a struggle at times. This machine was built back when, you know, they weren't getting $100 an hour, but you know, in this society, that's what it takes plus to make a living. You know, where a CNC machine, if you were doing 5 or 6 blocks a day, I could understand that. But this machine, if you don't push it and you take your time, it'll do a really decent job. But getting it set up is a real trick. Don't ask me about the tricks, because it seems like every time I do one of these engines on this machine, I'm learning something. And I've bored a lot of blocks with this machine. You know, I've had it probably close to 20 years now. This was the first machine that I wanted. A little quick story. I was building engines, but every engine that I seemed to get from a customer, it needed to be line bored or line honed. And the machine shop in town, which is no longer open, they were always backlogged. And I got a cap cutter. So I started cutting and fitting my caps and sending it over there, hoping that I'd get into the front of the line, because a simple engine job would take months. And at that time I was doing assembly and a little bit of, I would do my rods. I had a cap cutter and a hone for honing out rods, and I had a honing machine to hone out engines. And I started out with a Waida boring bar, if you guys know what that is. So, you know, I won't get into a long drawn out story how I cut my teeth on some of this stuff, but every time an engine needed a line bore job, it just stayed dead in the water. So as I acquired equipment for the shop, this was the last machine that I was able to purchase damn near. And I wanted it first, and these things were hard to find at that point in time. So I got it, and I learned its habits. And you know, I tell people, and they kind of blow it off, but you really got to become one with this machine. If you're having a bad day, I'd recommend not working with this machine. But it will do a good job, and I'll show you the line bore sizes when I'm done here with this video. Towards the end, I'll show you what the sizes are. 16. Okay, this is the small block, the engine that I'm building into a 383. This is the one that had the starter ear that was cracked up at the top, and I repaired that. And this is the engine that had the bad water pump bolt, although you can't see it because it's on the fixture. But and they took the caps. All the three middle caps have been replaced. I did not drop the line bore much on this engine at all, probably about 2.5 thousandths. The reason being is I wanted the caps had a little bit of offset to them. I cut the caps as much as I felt comfortable with, and then if I would have dropped it down further, it might have not cleaned up the cap 100%. It's pretty damn good right now. This block had a horrendous line bore. You can see some shadow marks right here. It's not going to affect anything because I'm going to take another 2 thousandths out of this housing bore. This is my, I guess my third, this will be my second pass. The last pass will be 3, so that should be gone. So I didn't do a lot of talking on this video. Line boring blocks for me is very strenuous. You know, the machine does an absolute beautiful job. You know, you can see that's you can't get much better than that. And they all look that way. There's a little iron dust on them. Of course, the back one you can see the shadow lines from the previous board job from GM, but them will be gone. The hardest part about this machine is getting the block square to the bar, and that is it's always been a hassle. And I've modified these. I'm going to have to look into trying to improve upon them. I have improved upon them some. The deal is once you get them dialed in, it's not a bad job. But if you're going to get an old Tobin flat top like this is, don't expect to just jump in it and do excellent jobs right off the bat. You got to get used to the machine. Now I'm used to the way these act. So I've done enough blocks on this machine. I've had it for 20 years now that I pretty much know how it acts up and how it feels. But you really got to become one with the machine. I'll make a final pass on this and then let you look at it again. Okay, we're going to try this. I'm on number 2 right now. 1/10 over 0. Number 1, 1/10 over 0. The phone doesn't want to focus. I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can here. I can't. The 0. Two tenths. There it goes. 1/10. A little bit more on that one. Doing the back one. 1/10, half a tenth. A little bit more, so less than a tenth worth of taper. So the next thing that I do is after I line bore them, I'm going to deck this block. Now I deck it with the BHJ True Deck system. And I had a guy ask me, hey, could you show me how you set it up? It's pretty straightforward, but seeing how I am done with the block, you always want to make sure you break the edges of the cap and the housing board. You can do that with a stone, a file, a piece of sandpaper, but you want to do that. And of course, you have the spacer rings for the housing bore. And I file flats, a little bit of a flat in both sides, so it won't get pinched. And you don't want this so tight that it's changing and deflecting the housing bore. So I'll wipe it down, set it in there. Make sure you're not clamping on a bunch of junk. Okay, I just tighten these down. They don't have to be torqued. You don't want to distort the housing bore. And I've got a video where I make these. I've made them for odd engines like a 1958 Pontiac, where it's just, if you've got a lathe, you can make these out of aluminum. I've made them out of hard plastic, made them out of steel. So you put the two bar spacers in. Make sure everything's clean. Okay, you put your tapered cones in your cam tunnel. Now you want to make sure there's no burrs on the front and the back of the cam tunnel when you put your tapered cones in. You also want to make sure your tapered cones are not all hammered out, because after a while they'll get that way. So you want to adjust them lightly with a file or a piece of sandpaper. So you'll have a hand nut that goes on there like that. Make sure nothing's hanging down. The housing bore, and you just push her through here, and the back one threads in. Make sure that don't have any high spots on it. We'll just go over it with a piece of paper real quick, just lightly. We're not trying to change it. We're just trying to make sure nothing's hanging off of it. Like I said, after they get used, don't take much to put a little ding in them. Okay. Okay, so that'll center itself. So now you're going to put the precision bar in, at least that's how I do it. I'm going to slide the precision bar in there, and then again, just like everything else, we want to make sure that there ain't no high spots on this. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. One guy was asking if I would do it, and I I'm doing it. So if you've got a question on this, it's pretty simple, self-explanatory. There's really no tricks to putting it on. You just really want to make sure that there's no burrs on anything, and you know, you don't want to force anything. If something ain't right, take the time, look at it, make sure it's right. You'll have a brass washer that'll go on first, and she's ready for the mill. Got a little something going on here. There we go. You should be able to do that with it. If you can't, then you got a problem. So you pretty much, when you buy the kit, you'll have the V blocks, and then you just adjust your height with the plates that they provide. Usually with the kit, you'll get spacer plates and adjust it for the height of the block and how much travel you have on your head of your machine. Of course, once it's setting on the V blocks, you want to true it into the head of the machine, and that's pretty much it. So anyway, sorry about the fingers. They come free with every video, it seems. But okay, so we got our bar in here and everything's pretty much set to go. Thought I'd throw this in here just to help somebody out. You know, I usually figure out about where I want the bar, and then we'll take a marker. So I'll figure out, I usually eyeball it, but see, now I got a tape measure right here. That's pretty close to being where I want it. I'll slide it there. I'll mark the bar. Okay, I'm going to pull the bar this way. I'm going to wrap a piece of tape around this bar. And what that's going to do is when I pick this up, because this is going to be the heaviest part of the block, usually that's the way it works out with the plate and everything on it. This has got a hand nut on it. That ain't going to go nowhere, but that bar will slide right out of there. And usually it'll slide out when you don't want it to. So just put a little tape around it, and that'll be enough to hold the bar from sliding out and bouncing off the floor. I can't tell you if that's happened or not, but it's something you don't want to do, because you'll spend a lot of time filing the end of the bar down so you can slide it through it again. So this little piece of tape kind of helps with that program. We'll just slide it back and we'll be ready to put her in the machine. So that'll be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I see a lot of people look at my videos. Maybe you don't watch them very long, but you know, you really do me a good favor if you subscribe to my videos. I try to do my best on them, and they're there for people to learn from, and that's why I'm doing them. So thank you for watching.